Heidi Kuhn, your host of the Los Altos History Show. We're going to be discussing Syktyvkar, our Russian sister city located in the Komi region, with Mike Bruno. Mike, welcome.
Thank you, Heidi.
Mike has had a diversified career as a manager, entrepreneur, commercial loan broker, and now is a dedicated volunteer for a list of causes. On top of that list is Mike's involvement as a liaison for Los Altos with the sister city of Syktyvkar. Mike has helped organize the first Los Altos visit to Syktyvkar just 3 years ago. Since then, the people of Russia and the world have witnessed unbelievable changes, from glasnost to the overthrow of communism. Changes no one a decade ago would have dreamed possible. Certainly a historic time to be involved with a Russian city. Mike, how did Los Altos become involved with the sister city of Syktyvkar?
Well, it came about because of another program called Russia Meets Middle America. And in that program, there were 3 people from Russia that came to visit various cities in the United States, and Los Altos was one of them. And one of the delegation was a man named Sasha Sokolov, and he was head of the Komi Peace Committee, and he decided that this was an ideal place for a sister city relationship. And so he actually proposed to us that we form a sister city relationship with the city of Syktyvkar.
Mike, what actually does constitute a sister city relationship?
It's a formal agreement between the, in this case, the city of Syktyvkar and the city of Los Altos. And it's an agreement to provide certain kinds of exchanges, whether it be cultural or business or so forth. And each city has its own charter, but that's the essence of it.
And Mike, with the convertibility of the ruble, so much of what we read about, are there any financial commitments on either side that are involved with a sister city relationship?
Yes, there are, and those financial arrangements are changing drastically each day, and it's pretty hard to keep up with what's going on. When we were there 3 years ago, there was $1, a ruble was equivalent to $1.65. Today, there's about 300 rubles to the dollar. So that's a wild inflation from their standpoint. And so some of the things that they were able to provide at that time, they're no longer able to provide, and transportation and hotels and so forth have become almost exorbitant, so exorbitant as to be prohibitive almost.
Well, Mike, with the onset of winter, we understand this is going to be a very harsh, very cold winter for the Russian people. Last year, they had a great deal of optimism following the August coup. This year, it is going to be, forecasts say, a very long, cold winter in Russia. How does that directly affect the sister city relationship with Syktyvkar, and what can the Los Altans do to support that situation?
Well, we know that, that during the summer, that the people in Syktyvkar grow as many vegetables and so forth as they can in their dachas, so that they can weather the storms and perhaps a shortage of food and so forth. But even though the weather may be cold, it's my understanding that the supply of foodstuffs and other goods have become more plentiful, if not more expensive. So hopefully, even though it will be cold, and it is very cold in Syktyvkar, like minus 40 degrees, they will have enough food and so forth.
How is the relationship teaching the Russians to handle the supply and demand, the balance of trade, and teaching them the elements of a market economy?
I think it's very difficult, and it's a language that didn't exist there because everything was handled by the government, and now you're getting more joint ventures being started between not only the United States but other countries around the world. And it's a language, a business language, that the Russians are having to learn, and they are studiously going after it and learning the language and trying to put it to practice. And they have several, not several, but more than several entrepreneurs, people who have created businesses, both large and small, and are being very successful at it. And there's, like there are here, the history of failed businesses as well.
The greatest obstacle towards change, as I understand from the people that I know who are actively doing joint ventures back and forth, is communication. How are you able to communicate with Syktyvkar, and also is email an effective means of communication, or what is your best example?
Email is a big improvement over what we had before, which was telephone and mail, and there were very few trunk lines actually from the United States to Russia, and they went to Moscow and then had to be rerouted to the particular city you wanted. So coupled with 11 or 12-hour time zone difference, you literally are, have night and day difference. So that was difficult. Plus, it was very difficult getting through on the telephone. They've since gotten direct dialing in Syktyvkar, so we can dial directly. Email has been a big help, and there will be soon improvements in telephone systems where each city will have its own telephone system, which will be linked by satellite and so forth. So I think it's an absolute necessity that there be good communications in order to have a good business environment. You can't spend several hours waiting for a phone call to go through to make a decision. You've got to have instant communications, and that's going to be an absolute necessity before business really succeeds, I think.
And how about, Mike, the one-to-one relationships? I know when people try to communicate, oftentimes in Russia, when you send a letter, it's often still a 2 or 3 month delay as far as receiving on the other side.
I think mail is totally unreliable. That's all you can say for it. You cannot depend on the mail. It either doesn't get there or it gets there late, or something will happen, you'll actually get it in 2 weeks. But you can't count on it. You'd be sorely pressed if you had to be dependent upon the mails. You've got to do it by phone or email.
Would your best suggestion to be for people, if they did want to send things over, to send things possibly through a friend who is flying there to Russia?
That's absolutely the best way, to hand carry the thing. And we have enough people going back and forth now to Syktyvkar that's the way a lot is done. And that's the most reliable system.
Kind of the Arctic Pony Express.
That's right, exactly, exactly.
Okay. Well, Mike, we were just over there this last spring leading a delegation from San Francisco to Moscow. There's now, of course, a polar air bridge linking San Francisco to Moscow, and Syktyvkar is, what, 600 miles north?
That's correct.
North.
It's about 600 miles northeast of Moscow.
Of Moscow, Moscow. We learned so much about the cultural aspects over there, the concentration on Russian art, their cultural appreciation. Yeltsin in May had surprisingly given $15 million to the continued restoration of the Tretyakov Gallery there, which was surprising to us as he was embarking to the United States appealing for aid. But I think the significance there is the Russians' appreciation for culture and preservation of the arts.
That was our finding too. We found that in general that the average Russian, at least this is my opinion, is much more aware of culture and the arts than the average American. In fact, we found in many cases that the average Russian knew more American literature than the average American. And it was quite surprising. And they are, I think, more attuned to culture and arts, and it's a greater part of their everyday living than it is for us, at least.
I was very surprised. Jack London and John Muir were required reading over there, and we'd be hard pressed.
John Steinbeck is another big one.
Steinbeck was another one. Mike, can you just briefly explain some of the artifacts here on the table that you were able to share with us?
Well, the Matryoshka dolls, or Matryoshka dolls, of course, or nesting dolls, are a favorite over there, and they come in all sizes, shapes, and they even have political dolls with Gorbachev and Khrushchev and so forth. Then the lacquer boxes are a very sought-after item, and they come from about 4 different communities, and usually the really good ones are signed by the artist and dated, and they represent various scenes from a book of fairy tales. The spoons and so forth are pretty common
souvenirs.
Yeah, handicraft and so forth. And the shawls likewise, and they make a wide variety of those. And we picked up.
So there are items over there that are being produced.
Oh, absolutely.
Just a little hard press for the raw materials, right?
That's right, and they sell very well over here too.
Yeah.
In fact, we tried to set up a system whereby our sister city was providing us some of these things, and we were selling them and using the funds that we got, the profits from them, to support our sister city relationship.
Free enterprise system. Thank you, Mike. Well, in order to give you a flavor of Syktyvkar and the visit back and forth, we put together a collage from the tapes from the people of Syktyvkar that they shared with us describing their city. We've included also some footage from the Los Altos delegation's visit to Syktyvkar just 3 years ago, and also some clips from the very first visit from the delegation from our Russian sister city. Let's roll that tape now. Syktyvkar is 600 miles northeast of Moscow in the Komi region of Russia. This map indicates its location within Russia, as well as its proximity to Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Syktyvkar is approximately the same latitude as Anchorage, Alaska, so the weather is cold 9 months of the year. Syktyvkar is a relatively young city. In the 19th century, there were only 2 stone buildings and no paved roads. But as you can see, Syktyvkar now boasts of a modern skyline. It reminds you of the American city of Minneapolis in the winter months. Established in 1876 as the most northern industrial cities, it is now a city of 250,000 people. It was built according to the general plan adopted in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, and is very reminiscent of St. Petersburg with its wide boulevards, parks, and squares. The main industries are plastics, textiles, and paper. People go about their day, much as they do here in Los Altos, only with snow, of course. Sports and physical fitness are important to the citizens of Syktyvkar. It is the home of many Olympic champions. Swimming and winter sports of skiing and ice skating are the primary sports people engage in and enjoy here. The arts are important as well to the people of our sister city. Many Russian masterpieces reside in the museums. The main focus of the art world here is on portraiture, nature, and landscape paintings. In the evening, citizens may enjoy an evening at the theater. This evening's performance, for example, is a musical comedy directed by a local director. Or you may take in a ballet at one of the dance theaters. Ballet is one of the passions of Russian people. Admire the beautiful costumes and the liveliness of these folk dances. A delegation from Los Altos visited Syktyvkar in 1989. You may recognize one of our local council members and city officials. There is Marge Bruno and Arnie Croce, then city manager, shaking hands of the mayor of Syktyvkar. The delegation from Los Altos enjoyed the hospitality of the people here enormously and learned firsthand about the way of life in Syktyvkar, as did the delegation from the sister city of their first visit in Los Altos. This group visited the PG&E plant in Moss Landing as part of its introduction to California industry. Judith Burrell sums up this exchange very well.
It was the dream of a person in Los Altos that we have a sister city. And he started the committee, and it was and asked the blessing of the city council. We have since adopted one city, Bendigo, Australia, outside Melbourne. And just last year, we adopted Syktyvkar.
This Russian-American hard-hatted team took in a lot on their tour and even shared some good-natured comments on what they observed.
Хотя должен сказать, что многое здесь уже, конечно, не соответствует требованиям сегодняшнего дня, даже по нашим масштабам.
He liked the power station, he liked the station, the plant, but he says that some things are not quite up to date.
Особенно первая часть, построенная в 50-е годы.
He means the first generator units which were built in the 50s.
Ну а вообще станция мне очень понравилась.
But in general, he liked that very much.
But these comments sum it up best.
all alike. We all want the same thing, and that really I believe world peace can be a reality and is a reality right now, really.
All the folks we met today were real personable. They were real asking a lot of questions, and today really showed how close we can be together as a common people with common goals.
Самое хорошее впечатление, вот у меня лично, да, я думаю, у каждого из членов нашей делегации, самое хорошее впечатление об американском народе, о его приветливости, дружелюбии, доброжелательности. И вообще я уеду отсюда с тем чувством, что, ну, с непониманием, что ли, почему мы много лет пытались конфронтировать друг с другом вместо того, чтобы сотрудничать.
Well, he's having very warm feelings, the warmest possible feelings. And now when we are going home, he thinks, why there has been confrontation for so many years, while we could have had warm feelings, you know, and friendship for all those years.
The mayor said it so well. Why did it take us all this time to get to know one another? Joining us now is Natasha Sharypova. Natasha is a recent graduate of the Pedagogical Institute and an aspiring teacher. Natasha is currently working in Los Altos and studying as well. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you.
Natasha, you are a native of Syktyvkar. Tell me about this sister city. Please share this with your impressions with the audience tonight.
Well, first of all, you would like me to tell you a few words about Syktyvkar?
Please.
So, Syktyvkar, I think, is a very nice city, though it is situated really in the north region of our country, but it's very nice in summer and it's very nice in winter. And I think in summer it looks a little bit like Los Altos. So I'm really glad that these two nice cities are sister cities right now.
Now, what makes you say it looks so much like Los Altos in summertime? Is it the flowers, the
Yeah, I think the
trees?
Flowers make them look so similar.
Uh-huh.
You might mention the White Nights.
The White Nights. Now, Mike, tell us about the White Nights.
Well, it's daylight in July, or in the latter part of June and July. It's daylight almost 24 hours a day.
Right, because it's on the same latitude as Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah,
so you
that's
have
true.
really the land of the
Yes.
midnight sun up there. So you were able to enjoy the beauty for a longer period of time. Tell us, Natasha, your first impressions about Los Altos, your first visit here, your first moments.
Well, I guess one of my most good impressions of Los Altos are actually people who are living here. I really enjoy their company, and for me Los Altos, it's like one very big family, and what's very important, it's a very friendly family, because people smile a lot and they try to help each other, and I'm very glad that they accepted me to their family.
Natasha, education is so different in our country as opposed to yours, yet here in the United States we're experiencing so many shortages. Teachers are underpaid, supplies within the classroom are certainly in short supply. Do you experience those type of problems in Russia, and how do you get around them?
Well, I guess so, and unfortunately I think this position and situation of the teachers is a kind of universal, because our teachers are also paid less money than most of people who are working in some other fields, because they belong to so-called budget organizations, so they're paid by state money. And but I think that these things should change, because the teacher's profession is really very important, because actually they are raising the future of the countries. So
do you foresee changes in the near future, concentration on education in your country, or?
Oh yes, sure. Right now I think our schools are becoming, they're trying to buy some new equipment, or some organizations donate these computers and some other equipment to schools. Then schools try to educate the kids in a better way. Now they have more choices in their subjects. They can be either more humanitarians, or they can go into exact sciences. So they have more choices right now.
Natasha, I visited a school in Moscow, public school number 1201, and I noticed so much that the style of teaching was very organized, very structured. There were rows, the students were assigned to rows. Here in the United States, we often break off into study groups. How was that a surprise to you? Do you see that as a benefit? What have you learned from our structure of classroom?
Well, on the one hand, it's definitely a benefit because students, they feel free and they feel that they can discuss all the things with their teachers. They are more open. But on the other hand, maybe they're a little bit disorganized. I mean, we have these experiences in Russia too. Right now, parts of our lessons we try to organize like in groups, when children work in groups, and it's real nice. But mostly it can work in high school, but not with smaller kids. So
One interesting difference is I think the teacher and the students move together, as opposed to in our system where the teacher stays put. This year it's 7th grade, next year it's 7th grade, but the student goes on to a different teacher. Don't you move with the teacher?
that's true. Our
Now
kids,
that's interesting. You mean the teacher is assigned to the student, say in
Yes,
first grade, so
sure.
you will be the teacher in second grade, so you grow with the students.
That's right. For example, I had a teacher of English at school, and actually he taught me English from the age when I was 8 years old until I was 17.
Really?
So-
Really?
That would have been a real disadvantage for me.
Now, why is that, Mike? We'll talk about that in our next show. The continuity there of the same teacher, do you find that you're able to adapt to their style of teaching? What are the benefits from your point of view?
First of all, I guess if the teachers are changed from one year to another year, then each teacher brings his own mistakes to the kids. So they they're experiencing more mistakes from the teacher's side. And the benefit of this system is that the teacher, he actually knows, the children knows their psychology, and they're becoming more like friends. For example, we felt like we were in one family now during our lessons of English, and it was real nice.
And how does your teacher feel about you being here in the United States?
Well, I'm sure he's very excited, and he's very happy for me.
Has he
Obviously did a good job.
did a very good job, absolutely a very good job. Has he been here in the United States yet?
No,
or-
no.
So his sense of duty is passed on through you. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Natasha, there's many, many changes right now occurring in the former Soviet Union. How have those changes, you grew up in what was the Soviet Union, how does that change, the dissolving of the Soviet Union, affect you as an individual?
Well, first of all, of course, we had to learn a lot more things about our own country. Then we had to change some points of view, probably. And at first, the whole thing was so surpriseful. It was just surprising and amazing. But now we are kind of adapted to these changes. We're just living in them. And so we are just hoping for the best.
Are people very sensitive towards joint ventures as a means of really helping the Russian society to succeed, whether it be European or American joint ventures?
Yes, I think so. Joint ventures right now are really welcome in Russia, and I think both sides benefit from them, not only Russian side, but also foreign side.
What would your advice be to an American entrepreneur or business person interested in investing in Russia? What would your advice be at this particular time?
Well, it's really hard to say. I'm not an
Are there
expert.
opportunities in Syktyvkar? Is there natural
There
resources?
are great opportunities.
What would be available to a prospective business person interested in Syktyvkar? Is it industry?
It's industry, it's forest industry. We have gas, oil, coal. So we have lots of mineral resources. And, well...
Mike, what is your impression as an American business person, having traveled over there?
Well, first of all, the former Soviet Union is a vast potential market for all kinds of products. And then they have some of the world's largest deposits of various minerals, and as Natasha said, gas and oil, coal, timber, paper, cardboard, and so forth. So they represent not only a huge market opportunity, but they also represent a tremendous supply. They also have, they're probably leading the world in metallurgy, and so they have a lot of technological skills that they can...
The biggest problem seems to be convertibility of the ruble, really, just finding a common denominator so that trade can effectively occur between both countries. Would you agree with that?
Well, it's not a hard currency yet, and so that is the stumbling block. That's been the thing that has been the problem with most joint ventures in the past, is how do you repatriate the money that you've made over there? You can't convert rubles to dollars or pounds or anything else, and so one of the things that has to happen, and they're moving in that direction, is the ruble has to seek its level relative to other currencies of the world and become a hard currency.
And very briefly, what is your forecast? It's going to be a very long, cold winter, as it always is in Syktyvkar, but do you have a feeling of hope for your country on this pivotal point in history?
Sure. People just have to hope, and then I'm sure that all these changes, I mean, people usually have hard times probably when they're actually going through the changes, but then they come to something real nice and happy.
Natasha, you're certainly a wonderful ambassador for your country, and we really appreciate having you here as a guest in our city of Los Altos. And Mike Bruno, thank you so much for initiating this and getting this whole process started.
Thank you very much.
Hope there are many. The very fact that we're sitting here discussing these events is comment enough about how much has changed in such a short period of time. Certainly the timing of adopting Syktyvkar as a sister city is historic. We're delighted to have Natasha from our sister city of Syktyvkar, and of course Mike Bruno of Los Altos to join us. And of course we look forward to seeing all of you next time. Thank you for watching the Los Altos History Show. Good night.